Good morning. This is Teacher Dean, and I'm coming to you from Apostolic Radio Ministries International. And Teacher Dean from Apostolic Radio Ministries International, going over the different ways that we use the word pour out. So, pour out can be used as a phrasal verb. Again, the word is pour out. It can be used as a phrasal verb. It can also be used as a regular word. So in America and in Russia and in certain parts of the world, we can use the word pour out as in a ritual. So an intentional act done for the dead, and these are all out of respect, you can use the word pour out. You can also use the word pour out in intentional act done for the dead. With the gangsters or with the singers, they use it. All kind of people use it as an intentional act for the dead in respect for the dead. So it's an intentional act done for the gods and the goddesses. Another way that I see the word pour out used, I see it used in the kitchen. And they're using it for preparation and for measuring. And they say, can you pour out the wine on the ice of the party? And you'll also see, please pour out cups of flour for the cookies. And I'll show you illustrations of that later. You also hear the word pour out, and it can be used in the church or groups of people. And this is also an intentional use. For example, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. And the young man shall testify, and others will dream dreams, right? Now, that is one way of pour out. The congregation pour out of the church after the flood. Means that the people came out after the flood. Students can pour out. Hounds can pour out, right? They run out, they leave. The people in the congregation pour out their hearts at the altar. When we talk about something personal, or we talk about something and we let it all out, we tell everything that is happening. That is to pour out. Now, let's look at this. And when we're talking about pour out with church of groups of people, or church or groups of people, and these are intentional, like we want to do it. And the scripture will say, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Right? And you'll hear that in church. See, what will happen when they pour out the spirit on all flesh? People shall dream dreams, and people will testify, and people will do all kind of things. That means you'll have a different encounter. That is to pour out. Also, when we're looking at the word pour out, you can say the people poured out of the room after the fire. The students poured out of the room at lunchtime. Means to run out, to leave, to get out. Everybody understands? Now, we can also look at people pouring out their feelings. That person did me bad, so I am pouring out and telling what happened. Or I am feeling anger, or I'm feeling like somebody don't like me, or I'm feeling that I'm a disappointment, or I'm feeling like a disgrace. I can pour out my heart. I'm pouring out all my feelings. I am telling you how I feel. Emotional. That is also to pour. Now, let's go ahead and look at the next way that we see the word pour out used. For example, in this picture, you see pour out. This is done in respect for the dead. Are you thought of that? That is one that is done for the dead, and pour out goes onto the ground. A lot of times you hear the word pour out, that goes to the ground. For example, in an intentional use, I can say, I am pouring one out. I pour out one for the dead. Also, I can say, pour out the bad meal into the sink. I don't say pour the milk into the sink. I say pour out. That means it's going away. Everybody understand? So pour out on the ground, in the sink, it's going away, it's garbage. Sometimes you hear that pour out, but it's pouring out on the ground, right? Now, you can hear they say, I pour out the dirty water out of the bucket. That is to say that one is going out. Everyone understands? Now, let's look at the next one. Pour out in terms of a ritual respect for the dead. I pour out in respect for my grandfather who died. So you can also see here, and we're moving on to this section. Right here in this sentence, an intentional act done for the gods and the goddesses. In the Bible, it says to make cakes to the queen and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. That is saying that's going out, pour out to the gods or goddesses. Then we also see pour out, where they're doing it, to pour out water on the ground, to salute the gods and goddesses in voodoo. Let's continue. Now, here in this picture, we are doing preparation. Can you pour out the wine on the ice for the party? This is the pour out. Please pour out 2 cups of sugar for the cookies. I will show that one later. Now, in this picture, this one again is just showing you, this isn't like in Russia and other places where they poured vodka to celebrate for the dead. And they also can pour out ice for the gods and goddesses in different countries. Here, just to remind you, they can say pour one out when they're doing it for the respect for the dead. And they say also, I pour out for the holies. Okay? So this one, you see this all over place. So if you see that, that's what they mean. Now, here we have the drinks lined up. The housekeeper will pour out drinks and line them up for the waiter. So she have them prepared and ready, and then the waiter will pick them up and bring them to each person. Here it is. Please pour out 2 cups of sugar to bake the cookies. So we're preparing the sugar to bake the cookies. Also, we use pour out when we talk about pour out was on the floor. I pour the jar, pouring out marbles. I bought the jar, pouring out glass marbles poster. You see that? So this is marbles on the floor. Also, you can say, hey, the kids are here. Please pour out the M&Ms and the chips in the red bowl. Right, so you're going to prepare for the kids. In this screen, we're talking about what happens in church. And they say, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Yes. Right, and that's in church. And when we pour out our spirit upon all flesh, things happen to all the people right here reaching out. All the people. Different groups of people will do something else. Let's look at this. The other way is the students poured out of the classroom during the fire. When they poured out, that means they left the classroom. This one is in a phrasal verb. Okay? And the last one is when we pour out or tell our problems. So when we pour out or tell our problems, we tell everything. So yesterday at the altar, I poured out all my prayer. I hope God will respond quickly. She poured out what happened in the accident at home to the church sisters. Oh, I wish this never happened. I poured out. I told all my feelings. So I hope this video will help you to understand some of the ways, 9 ways that I remember that I see pour out used in English. So thank you again for listening. This is Professor Dean or Teacher Dean, Apostolic Radio Ministries International. Continue on the word